Hello, good morning, or actually good afternoon. I wanted to share today a few thoughts and things that I've seen around conflict in relationships and when we disagree with other people and how we may believe that other people can make us feel anything that I hope might be helpful over the Christmas and holiday period. So if you're watching this soon, then it's Christmas next week. If you're watching this at some other time, then Christmas may be have been and gone. So typically at this time of the year, we tend to be thrown together with either friends or family who maybe we haven't spent a lot of time with, who maybe generally we don't hang out with, and who we may have quite differing political opinions or opinions about parenting or opinions about food or alcohol or how we spend our time, or really just there could be a myriad of things that we may seemingly disagree on. And we're often thrown together for a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week. And for some people that can, if you know that you have someone in your family or in your friendship group who you find difficult, that can often bring a bit of feelings of dread or stress, or, you know, the kind of how's it going to go kind of feelings. And add on top of that, that unfortunately in our society, there's also a lot of pressure in the ether, with people believing that Christmas has to go, you know, a certain way, and that this is how I have my Christmas day, and this is what we do on Christmas Day. And often those things can create a bit of conflict or a bit of arguing or a bit of anger or frustration or irritability or whatever. So I just wanted to share with you a few things that I've seen for myself around this, and also with my clients, that I hope may be helpful. So I've just got 3 or 4 points to make. I'll try and keep it brief because I also know that lots of people are busy at this time of year. So the first thing to begin to see is that really we all, according to what we think, what thought energy we have coming through us, bringing us our thoughts and our beliefs. So according to what we believe, that is going to be the reality that we live in. And so we don't really, you know, the outside world is there, it's in existence, but our perception of it, our experience of it, comes from our thinking that in the moment about it, comes through our perception of it in the moment. And we create a story, we create a perception, we create an experience of it internally of the outside world. And this is also true of other people. And when we believe that other people should think like us, other people should have the same beliefs as us, it can get us into a lot of sticky water. And what I've seen to be really helpful in this area is when I see that absolutely everybody on this earth, so all 7 billion of us, live in a completely different experience or reality or experience of life according to our thought in the moment, according to our long held beliefs. And so really we have 7 billion or more now different realities existing on Earth. Now sometimes there's overlap with people having similar beliefs or the same beliefs, but no two people will have exactly the same beliefs about absolutely everything. There may be a lot of overlap, but it's never absolutely identical, and there's always nuances within that. So even if you agree with someone, you may agree with part of it but not all of it. So it's all completely nuanced and it's all completely personal. So we can look at this, but unfortunately with our thinking, with our beliefs, we tend to think that other people should think like us, or it would be much better if you thought like us. But when we hold on to that as a way of being in life, I find it just creates a whole lot more conflict within yourself and within relationships. And when we can know that our thinking is as individual and personal and different as the irises of our eyes, as our DNA, as our fingerprints, you know, it's absolutely individual to us. And our thinking is the same. Our perception of life is the same. Our beliefs is the same. It's all completely different from the person to the right of you and the person to the left of you. So I found that really helpful within my relationships to know that even though somebody may have completely different opinions to me about things that I may well disagree with, and I may disagree strongly with them. They are experiencing their thought in the moment about that. I am experiencing my thought in the moment about that. And who is to say who is right? It's going to look really real to me that I'm right and you're wrong, but that isn't actually how life works. It's never black and white, it's always shades of grey. But why this is useful is because it takes the pressure off. So if I believe that somebody should act in a certain way because I do and they don't, then that expectation is going to bring disappointment, anger, frustration, whatever with it. But when I know that they perceive life completely differently to me, that their thinking in the moment is completely different to mine, then I can know, they haven't even had that thought. So I'll give you a small example. I've used this before with, things like my son maybe not picking up after himself, or my husband not putting the loose seat down, those kind of examples. If my son doesn't have the thought, I must clear up, then he's not going to act on it. He can't act on a thought that he hasn't had. If my husband doesn't have the thought, I'll put the loose seat down, he's incapable of acting on that because he hasn't had it. Now I have that thought and I have that thinking, and therefore I act on it. So it's really seeing that we do live in almost like these little bubbles of different energy, of different thought and different belief. And that when we know that we can not expect others to think like us, I find it takes a huge amount of pressure off of my relationships to be a certain way. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that nobody can make us feel anything. Now, this can seem quite big because it can seem that if somebody shouts at me, if somebody disagrees with me, if somebody is critical of me, that makes me feel a certain way. But actually, again, that perception is also coming internally from within. So nobody has the power to make me feel anything by what they say. Now, there will be a reaction to it. I'm not saying that life isn't happening. There's going to be a reaction to it. But that instinctual reaction, and it's okay whatever instinctual reaction you have. If you have an instinctual reaction of anger, of frustration, of irritability, of hate, whatever it is, that instinctual reaction is okay. We have no control over it. But I think once we've caught onto it, we do have maybe some level of choice as to whether we go down the rabbit hole of that thinking, of whether we layer thought on top of thought about how that person's wrong and how I'm right, and they've made me feel this way, they always make me feel bad, they always criticize me. We have a choice at that point, I think, as to whether we go down the rabbit hole with it, and also whether we react to it. So even though someone may say something, so I find I'm quite sensitive about criticism. It's one of my growing edges. And so if somebody criticizes me, I will often have a physical reaction within my body, and it feels like it hurts, and I may then get angry. But I can choose in that moment to not react to that, and sometimes I do because I'm human. And I can also choose to see later on, when my mind will love to chew that criticism over, that's their perception, that's their reality, and it doesn't have anything to do with me. And if there's a nugget of truth in that criticism, I may well take that on and think, okay, do I need to look at that in myself? But largely, I would say 95% of the time, people's criticism is more about them than it is about you. And I find that really helpful to know. And also to know that I am never feeling that person. I am always feeling my thinking in the moment that's coming to me about that person. Because somebody could criticize me or could criticize a situation, and 2 or 3 people will have completely different perceptions of it. So I'll give you an example. Recently, within a group of friends of mine, one of the friends suggested something that I disagreed with, and about half and half of the group, it was a bit split with different reactions all over the place. Some people were in agreement with what this friend had suggested, other people vehemently disagreed, other people were a bit in the middle about it. So it couldn't be the friend and it couldn't be the suggestion, otherwise we would have all had exactly the same reaction to it, but we didn't. We had 7 or 8 of us, with a completely different reaction to it, because it's all coming from within us. And as I've said in lots of previous videos, because thought energy is always changing, because the power of thought is moving through us all of the time, it's also always open to change. So nothing stays fixed. We don't have to change our thinking. We don't have to mess about with it. We just have to know that this is how life is working and how our experience is being created. So that doesn't mean that we don't also set a loving boundary. So that doesn't mean that we have to let people walk all over us. What I find it means for me is I can know that I have a different perception about something, someone else has a different perception. Who is right and who is wrong? That can often be hard to say. And in fact, it isn't really about right and wrong. It is about seeing that there's a completely different reality being created here. But that doesn't mean that if someone comes into my home at Christmas and is drinking too much or is abusive or is being overly critical, that we don't lovingly and gently set a boundary, that in our home at this time, this is how we behave, this is what we expect. Now, you may not get a great reaction to that, but you still need to set that loving boundary. So we're not going to be doormats here, but we're just going to be seeing that we're maybe not necessarily right, but we do know what we feel is appropriate for us and where we need to gently stand our ground. And the last point around relationships that I find really helpful is quite often, and particularly in the world that we live in, particularly in social media, in politics, about the environment, there's so many places where we disagree. And I find it really helpful to look underneath that to know, because we live in separate realities, that we're going to have disagreements about things. But that underneath that, everybody is looking for the same thing. Everybody is looking to be loved. Everybody is looking to feel good within themselves. Everybody is looking to be happy. Even if that isn't a completely 100% conscious thing, it mostly is for most people. But it isn't always completely conscious. And when I know, hi Valerie, so rather than looking at the differences that you see within your family and friends, can you gently look towards the similarities? That if somebody is criticizing, can you see underneath that maybe they're in pain in some way about maybe some completely other area of their life, and that you just happen to be bearing the brunt of that? Can you see that they want to feel good about themselves? Can you see that they just want to be loved? And when we can gently look towards what is similar about our human family and not what is different, I find that creates a lot more peace and a lot more compassion for myself and for others that I'm in relationship with. So I'll just quickly summarize the points. So we live in a separate reality or a separate perception of life according to our thinking in the moment, according to our beliefs, and we can't really expect our perception to be the same as somebody else's. So giving up that, the chase of that really brings a lot more peace. When we can let go of expecting others to react like us, expecting others to think like us, we can just listen to them from an open heart, hear them, and often communication gets a lot better when we're doing that, when we're not up in our heads thinking, yeah, but you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, rather than just really trying to hear them, where they're coming from, how they see life. There can be a lot more peace there within that relationship. To know that nobody can make me feel anything. I know this is a big one because it really looks the other way around. It really does. But I've really seen for myself and in lots of situations with other people where nobody can make me feel anything. It's always coming internally driven, and that's always open to change. That when I need to, the third point, when I need to, I set a loving boundary, and that's okay to do. When it comes from a place of love, generally it can be received with love, not always, but you know, we give it a go. And the last point, can we look at towards our similarities rather than our differences? I mean, if this was happening the world over, I think there would be a whole lot more peace in the world. But can we start with just our little corner of the world, our little family, our little friends, to look towards that which is similar rather than that which is different? And finally, just to say, also just have loads of compassion for yourself. If you know that you're going into tricky friends or family situations, just have compassion for yourself. If you react, you react. We can always apologize. And just have loads of compassion and love for yourself in this period, to know that you don't have to get it right all the time. Maybe there's going to be some arguing coming up. Maybe it's all going to be peaceful. We just don't know. So don't try and project too far into next week about what it's going to be like. And just really hold yourselves and everybody else in your life with love and compassion. So that's it for today. That's it for this year. This is my last video of the year. I'm going to be off from Friday for a couple of weeks with my son as he's off school. So I'm super excited about that, to be spending time with my beautiful family. And I just wish you the most beautiful holiday period, a wonderful start to 2020. And thank you for everybody who's watched my videos, liked my page, has interacted with me in any way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, just have a really beautiful holiday season. I hope it's peaceful, I hope it's filled with joy, and I hope it's filled with loads of fun and just time with people that you love. So yeah, so I'm signing off, and I shall see you bright and raring to go in 2020. Okay, much love. Bye, Valerie. Bye. Much love to you all.